Uh, okay, now we will continue for the risk management program, and one of the main important points to have the basic criteria. To have the basic criteria. What do you mean by basic criteria? This is very important, and this information we will use it in the evaluation and all this stuff. Number one, you have to define how the XYZ company it will evaluate the impact, because this is something subjective, as we mentioned. Then, is it 15,000 real? It will be high cost or high impact or low impact, or it may be 1 million or maybe 10 million and so on. Then what we have to do, we have to define a specific criteria. We have to define a specific criteria. And this criteria, we have multiple criteria. Here, how the impact analysis, it will be classified. We will classify it in 4 different levels, low, medium, high, critical. Low, this means that the impact cost is less than 15K. Medium, that it's between 15K and 30K. High, it will be between 30K and 45K. And finally, the critical, if it's more than 45,000 Saudi riyals. But this is the way of calculating the impact analysis. Of course, these numbers, as you remember, we said that it is subjective. It's not an accurate, it's a round figure. But if I want to have an accurate number, this I have to use the quantitative, not the qualitative. Qualitative, I will use low, medium, high, critical, but this it will be the range within this plus or minus 10% or whatever. It's not an accurate number, but this it will give me an indication about the impact of the analysis. The likelihood analysis, again, I will classify it as low, medium, high, critical. Below, that means that this risk, it can happen once every 3 years. Medium, if it will happen once every 3 years. High, if it will happen from 1 to 5 times every year, and critical if it will happen more than 5 times per year. Of course, this is a sample. You can classify it for, instead of do it 4 categories, you can do it 10 categories, 5 categories, whatever number of categories which you feel that it will fit the organization. Finally, how we calculate the risk level. Risk level, it will be very important because according to the risk level, this we will define the priority and which one it's high and to install the controls. Then how we will define the risk level? Risk level, it will be the risk impact times risk likelihood. Let's have an example here. If the risk impact, it was low and the risk likelihood, it was medium, risk, if it's low, then this means that it will be represented by 1. If it's medium, 2. If it's high, 3. If it's critical, 4. Then, if it's the low, then it will be 1. Medium, it will be 2. Then the risk level, it's 2. Risk level, it will be 2. This 2 means that the risk, it's considered as a medium level. The risk is considered as a medium level. Okay, any questions about this basic criteria? Because as you will see that these are the basics which we will build and we will evaluate these scenarios over this analysis and the risk level. Do you have any questions or clarifications regarding this or regarding this slide? Okay. In the risk acceptance, we will say that this is very important. XYZ company decide that they will accommodate risks level less than 2. Whatever any risk level less than 2, it will be accepted. Any risk level less than 2, it will be accepted. Then whatever any risk level less than 2, no further action it will be taken. It will be dropped. Just we will monitor it. Only we will monitor to make sure that everything is running fine. Okay, this is the risk acceptance criteria. And risk evaluation. When we say risk evaluation, this means that you will compare the risk level with the risk acceptance level. You will evaluate the assessed risk level with the risk acceptance level. Any risk level less than 2 will be accepted and only it will be monitored. Otherwise, there will be another action should be taken. Okay? This it was regarding the risk management program. For the context establishment, of course, I will not speak about it anymore because we discussed this in module number 3 in detail, and we get a lot of information out of it, especially the objectives and the scope as well. Okay, then risk identification. We have to define the assets. Already, you remember what the risk identification? Risk identification, we said that we have to define what? We have to define assets value, vulnerabilities, threats, existing controls. Now, if we will say we define the assets, we already did this in the previous modules, in the contexts and in the leadership. The primary assets, we have the software development lifecycle processes, developer team, service desk processes, application codes, security and privacy by design processes, supporting assets, network, intranet connection, servers, workstation, laptops, software packages, tools, collaboration tools, hardware, and so on. And step number 1 in the risk identification for defined assets, it's already achieved from the previous cases. What is the asset value? Again, who will help you in define the asset value? The business owner. They will be able to define the asset value. Asset value here, it should take in consideration 2 different costs, direct cost and indirect cost. Direct cost cover the cost of replacing asset, or the cost of assets operation efforts, or the business revenue loss due to asset unavailability. The indirect cost, what are the lost business opportunities, loss in company reputation, and market share. These are the costs which we have to be integrated into the asset value for the organization. And the asset value, it will be very important because it will define the criticality of this asset for the organization and for achieving its objectives and goals. And based on the our needs, we have to provide the controls first for the critical assets. Then we'll go down until we reach to the low priority assets. After that, you have to define the threads. You have to define these threads. To define the threads, it's not an easy task. It's not an easy task because what are the threads which threaten the assets? It's not an easy task. But we have some approaches. Like in ISO 27005, take care, this is 5, not 1. We are speaking about the risk management. ISO, we have another standard called 27005 for risk management. We have risk threats categories. We have risk threats categories. You can utilize these threads. You can utilize these threads, and this it can help you in as a starting point for the threats which it can threaten your organization. Also, you can work very close with the steering committee of the XYZ company in for the risk assessment and to define what are the risks. You remember when we said the steering committee, this which are the mid-level managers. We are the mid-level managers for the XYZ company, and we will be responsible for the operations and processes, and we are the best persons who can understand their assets and its value. And they can tell you what are the threats which it can threaten their operation. Also, you can appoint a contact person from each business division in XYZ company to be a member in the risk management steering committee. And he will be a very helpful person, and he can tell you what are the threats which it can threaten their assets and processes. This is the way where you can define these threats for the organization. For vulnerabilities, again, it is the same concept. The same concept for discovering threats. Again, vulnerabilities, there are some standards or categories for the from ISO 27001. You can utilize the steering committee for risk assessment, C-level management. You can have a contact person from each business division. They will help you to understand the vulnerabilities, and they can help you to understand the threats. Consequences. What is the impact of this asset on company objectives and goals? Again, who we can help? The business processes and the asset owner. We have the experience to tell you exactly the role of each asset in the business processes and how it can affect the company in achieving its goals and objectives. What are the existing controls? Of course, when you will go to any company, you will find some controls, you will find some processes, you may find some technical controls as like firewall or maybe some IBS or VPN, security policy, whatever the security controls which you can find. Then you have to understand what the security controls do they have. And this it will be very important. But the most important then to understand if they have it or not, you have to define these points that the existing controls inventory, effectiveness and efficiency of the security controls, to evaluate the operational status. Sometimes you may find a firewall, but when you will make a check, you will find that this firewall is down. Then this means that, of course, it's not operational. Then it does not mean anything for me, and I have to neglect its presence at all. And finally, if they have any planned controls for the future, they maybe have some plan for adding some other devices or security controls, but they don't have the budget. They are waiting for the next year budget, then they will be able to implement these existing controls. This, it can be one of the options as well. Okay. For the risk analysis, let's have the scenario number one, or risk number one. Risk number one, that customers and partners privacy data center leakage. Data leakage, privacy data leakage. Okay, what is the consequence analysis? What is the impact on the company? Bad reputation in the market, in compliance with the local laws and regulations, losing current and future business opportunities, losing current customers, legal cases against XYZ company from the customers and partners who their privacy data are stolen. And the consequence level, it will be the maximum. It will be critical. It will be number 4. Because now why I consider critical, we consider it critical because we have some legal cases. We have legal cases. It reached to the court. Now we have a problem in this case. Okay, what is the likelihood? Management of XYZ company, they said that this is not, it cannot happen regularly. This can happen once every 3 years. Then the likelihood, usually it will be low, 1. What is the risk level? Risk level, we have critical times low equal 4. Then the risk level of scenario number 1 is equal 4. Now, look, we are trying to apply the risk management basics and concepts which we learned in the previous slides now in the practical example. Now you can have the sense of the risk management. This real situation, real case, we make the impact analysis for it, we make the likelihood analysis for it, and we discover that the risk level, it can be 4. Okay, what is the next scenario? Customer's application code is stolen. Wow, this is a crisis. Again, what is the impact? Bad reputation in the market, losing current and future business opportunities, losing the current customers because their code, it was stolen, possibility of losing the enterprise customers long-term contract. This is the contract which we are looking for. If they know that the code of the customers, it will be lost, then this it will be a crisis. They may terminate the contract. They may have some financial problems because they are starting to losing business opportunities. Developers, they are afraid about on their reputation, then they may leave the company. But still, this, it will not cause any legal situation. It will not cause any legal or cases. When the consequences, it will be high, not critical as the previous one. The likelihood, it can happen again once every 3 years, when the likelihood it's low, and the risk level here, it will be again number 3. Scenario number 3, that the XYZ company website is out due to denial of service attack, bad reputation, losing current, and so on. And you will find the consequences level, it will be 3. Likelihood, it may happen once per year, medium. Again, likelihood and impact, this is very important, and it's not easy to find these values. You have to make a lot of brainstorming with the business owners, and you have to make, if you have a consultant, and you have to ask them, and you have to go back to the instant cases, if you have an instant databases and so on, then this it will help you to understand these consequences and likelihood. But the point which I want to say that the people who are responsible for the risk management or for the security, they are not responsible to figure out the consequences and the likelihood. It's not their job. It is the business owners. We have to do this exercise. Okay, we can manage the meetings. We can help them to understand the consequences and likelihood and all this stuff. But this information, it will not be available from your side. It can be available from the business owners. It can be available from consultants, whatever, internal or external consultants, subject matter experts, and so on. And the risk level, it will be 6. 3 times 2 equal 6. The risk scenario number 4, professional developers are leaving XYZ company to the competitors. We found that the consequence level, it will be 3, because it will be again bad reputation, losing investment in development, developer skills. You may send them to some training, possibility of customer partnership information and data leakage to the competitors, because the data is valid with, or it's known by the developers. Then if you did not sign the NDA with the these developers, when they can share this data with the competitors, losing the current customers, of course, because these customers, they prefer to work with the developers which they know him, and decreasing professionality level and functionality of XYZ company due to movement of its professional developers. These are the consequences. We found that the consequences level, it will be high. Number 3. The likelihood analysis, it will can happen again once per year, and this it will be level number 2. Risk level, it will be 6. The same concept, it will be applied for scenario number 5, and you will find that, wow, this it will be risk level 16. Why 16? Because we found that the risk, the likelihood, it's critical. that we're losing business opportunities due to poor security processes and procedures at XYZ, it's very critical. This can affect the XYZ company in the market. And of course, this is the nature of the current XYZ company products and application. And this, it have a critical value. Then now the risk level is 16. This is very critical for all of us. Right. Let's have a look here on the risk evaluation, how we evaluate the risk. Now we already made the risk identification. In the risk identification, we defined the assets, asset value, consequences, current existing controls, vulnerabilities. Then we make the analysis. We define the impact, we define the likelihood, and we define the risk analysis. The risk evaluation. What is the risk evaluation? We mentioned that in the risk evaluation, we will evaluate the risk level to the risk evaluation criteria and check if it will be accepted or we have to take another action. In scenario number 1, risk level 4, scenario number 2, 3, in scenario number 3, it was 6, and in scenario number 4, it was 16. All of them, do you remember what was the risk evaluation, the risk acceptance level? What was the risk acceptance level? Can you remember what was the risk acceptance level? It was 2. Then the risk acceptance level, it was 2. Then if the risk level, it's higher than the risk acceptance level, then this means that all these risks should be mitigated. We will not be able to accept any of these risks. We have to mitigate these risks. In XYZ company, we have to mitigate these risks. We have to find an action to minimize the likelihood or minimize the consequences. Here you find that risk treatment is required for all the risks. Risk treatment is required for all the risks. Okay. For risk treatment, how we will treat these risks. In scenario number 1, leakage of privacy data, the risk level, it was 4, and the risk option to mitigate. This means that we have to install some security controls to minimize the effect of the risk management. Scenario number 2, the risk level, it was 3. Again, we have to mitigate. Again, we need some controls to minimize the impact or the likelihood. In risk number 3, it was 6. We have to transfer. What do you mean by transfer? Here, there is some service called, for example, Acame. Acame, this is a service over the internet where you will publish all your services through Acame. Then anyone who wants to connect your service over the internet, it will not come to your company direct. It will go to this Acame. This Acame be a website, and it will receive all this connection, analyze it, and if it's clear, then it will enable VPN tunnel to the XYZ company and pass the traffic for them. But if it's attack or the line of service attack or whatever, then it will drop all these connections. XYZ company, they took a decision that they will transfer this. They said that we will not publish any service on our own. We will publish this service through Acame or any equivalent vendor. In scenario number 4, for the losing business opportunities due to bad security processes, as the risk level 16, it's a high one, then they will mitigate. They will have some controls to minimize the effect. And finally, again, the scenario number 5, XYZ company decided that they will mitigate this scenario number 5 or risk number 5. Okay, for risk acceptance, Management, they have to agree about the risk management or risk treatment plan. Management, we have to accept the risk treatment plan, and the risk owners also we have to accept the management treatment plan, because management we have to approve it or accept it, because we have to provide the necessary resources for implementing the controls, and the risk owners we have to approve it or accept it to show that they accept the mitigation and the control, and they accept the risk, residual risk. What is the residual risk? This residual risk, if you remember that when we said that, this is the risk which it will remain even after you will install the control. Even after you install the control. Let me give you an example. Now, suppose that there is one scenario, the risk level, it was 16 as we did. And we find that after we install the control, the risk level, it decreases into 2. Then this risk, this is the residual risk. This is the residual risk, and this residual risk, it's within our acceptance level, because acceptance level, we said that whatever any, oh sorry, not 2, it will be 1, because our acceptance level, it's less than 1. If we say it will be 1, then if it's 1, then this means that it's within our acceptance level. But suppose that it's not 1, it was 3, then okay, we will say no, gentlemen, this it will not be accepted, this it will be higher than the acceptance level. We have to provide additional controls then to minimize it till less than 2. And this which we call it risk acceptance. Risk monitor, the XYZ company management understand the importance the risk monitoring, and they decide to monitor the internal organization context, external organization context, business needs and requirements, stakeholders needs and requirements, changes in the standards, and all these the factors which affect the risks level. And also the XYZ company management decide to develop a new team for monitoring risks and controls. Wait. Now, due to the risk management, we will introduce a new division for in XYZ company for monitor the risks and controls. And we have to develop the KPI and KRI, the key performance indicator and key risk indicators. Then they will be able to monitor the risks and the control performance. And this team, it will be reported to the CEO. It will not be reported to security manager or IT manager. This, it will be reported direct into the CEO or the top management. Statement of applicability, I think we discussed this before, and we said that the company, XYZ company, they decide to have this form for the statement of applicability. Annex A security control category, control name, control applicability, if it's required or not, control description, business justification to accept it or to deny it, and who will be responsible for implementing this statement of applicability. Risk treatment plan, XYZ company designed this template for the treatment plan, risk name, risk description, risk level, treatment option, treatment description, start date of implementation, end date of implementation, what are the KPIs and KRIs for the monitoring, what are the required resources, who is responsible person for the implementation, and it should to whom it will be reported. Here is one example of the risk treatment plan. And this is example for the website and availability. You know, the XYZ company website is out of service due to denial of service. Critical level, it was 6. treatment option, it was transfer, and treatment description that this company, it will utilize a service from a third party or from Acme or any equivalent. When he will check for any attacks, and if the traffic is clear, then it will allow it to the company through a VPN or IPsec tunnel. Start date, it should be May 2021, end date after 1 month till they send the purchase order, and the IP address, it will be changed in the DNS server. What are the KPIs and KRI? It will be the internet service availability and internet access performance. What are the required resources? Monthly fees for the subscriber or subscription, XYZ company internal sources as monitoring tools for internet connection speed and availability, training courses to train XYZ company to monitor the internet connection. Who will be responsible? It will be the monitoring team. It will be reporting for C-level management and above. And what are the company security objectives? I think we discussed this a lot before, and I will not go through it again. And this, if you can remember, this is the design which we have it before for the company structure, and you will find that there is no IT risk management team. There is no IT risk management team, and XYZ company, it will have a new risk management team with a risk manager, and the risk manager, he will be reported into the CEO. Here, the security manager, this is a department which we added in the yesterday, after we make the discussion for the context and the leadership, and this is the risk management team after we proposed this module for the risk management. And now, according to our implementation for ISO, now we are changing the structure of the company. We are changing the structure of the company. We added another 2 divisions for the company. What are the required documents? Whatever any document for risk mandatory are required. Whatever any documents for risk management are required, whatever it is, statement of applicability, risk analysis, risk treatment plan, whatever any document, it will be required.
Doctor?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sorry, but it is the prayer time. Could we take a break?
No, I think we finished, and I don't want to continue anymore because now you are only 12, and I'm afraid that if we start another module, we will not be able to finish it. If you will give me a few minutes, I will close this module and we will finish for today, and tomorrow we will start the module number 7, inshallah.
Okay.
Okay. Based on quick recapping that based on the clause number 6 for planning and risk management, we developed the risk management program, we developed risk management team, we developed the risk management processes, we developed the statement of applicability, we developed the risk treatment plan, and we defined the security plans and objectives, and also we implement a new department or new division in XYZ company. This was the module number 5. Unfortunately, today the number of attendees are not too much, but anyway, I hope that we will be able to see this during the recording, because as I told you, this is a very important module and it's very important for people who will work in security. Please go through it. If you have any clarifications or questions, we will start these questions or clarification tomorrow, inshallah. I will stop here. I will not continue after that because I don't want to start the new module with this small number of attendees. Then tomorrow, inshallah, I will see you and we'll start module number 6. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay.